see a lot.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good afternoon to you. Welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon live on Fox Local, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube. We are tracking a little breaking news here on Fox 35 News Plus, an update now to a developing story that we first brought you on Florida Live this afternoon, and that is that we know, according to reporting from WSVN, the shooter in this Miami-Dade warehouse shooting is dead, shot by police, according to reports there. They are also reporting that the sheriff there saying 2 others were injured in this shooting. I know previous reporting cited that number at 4, 2 others injured, according to the Miami-Dade sheriff. So that is the update out of Miami-Dade this evening. It is 4 o'clock. That means it's time for today's Top 4 at 4, where we break down 4 of the big stories that we're tracking in the Fox 35 newsroom today. And joining me for today's Top 4 at 4 is Fox 35 news anchor John Brown. John, thanks for being here.
Yeah, let's start with this one out of Daytona Beach. A toddler who was chasing after a dog is now dead. He was hit by 2 vehicles in Daytona Beach last night. Daytona Beach Police responded to the area of North Halifax Avenue and Plaza Boulevard after reports of a crash involving a child. It was around 8:30 last night. When officers arrived, they found the 1-year-old with severe injuries. The child was taken to a local hospital and later died. Investigation revealed that the child had left their home to follow the family dog, which had gotten loose, and then while chasing the dog, the child stepped right out into oncoming traffic, and that's when they were hit. This is just a tragic story out there. I mean, how many times do you see kids and it's just a close call, and this one, I said it's dark in that area and just didn't see it coming. And imagine if you're the person who was involved in the accident. That's,
gosh, I can only imagine.
Yeah, that's sad.
And we know it was 2 drivers as well. And so Daytona Police held a news conference just about an hour ago where they gave a few more details about it and said, at this point, everything points to it just being a tragic accident. Here's what they said.
You know, I don't want to hold anybody accountable for what they did or didn't do last night. Obviously, you know, all of us, or those of us that are parents, we know that little kids are quick and fast, and it didn't just be that quick. And I can guarantee you they're dealing with some major trauma today. So obviously, if anything were to come out on the investigative side, we would take whatever measures were necessary, but we're not seeing any indication of that at the moment.
So no charges expected or anything like that, just a tragic accident. He was talking about the trauma that no doubt everyone involved in this or nearby this is going through. And even the investigators, he talked about it being tough for the police on the scene. Yeah.
That is a tough one. All right, let's go to Tallahassee now. It's been a week since a gunman opened fire on the campus of Florida State University. And by now we know the victims have been released from the hospital. Shooter, by the way, still in the hospital after he was shot in the jaw. But once he is released, he, of course, will be facing several charges. Well, since then, several students have been a part of protests at the state capitol, pushing lawmakers to back gun control measures, or at least not scale them back like what we're seeing in the House up there. Now, Garrett, you also spoke with a student today, talked about the vibe on campus. I mean, finals are coming up in just a couple of days, so this is going to be a stressful time already, but compounded with this as well.
It's a lot for them to be going through. And the student that I spoke to today was also a student at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas back in 2018. He is one of those who says he has been frustrated by the efforts to kind of roll back some of those reforms that were put in place by the state legislature after that shooting. And he also said that that he doesn't believe that these efforts that you mentioned, some of these students taking place in these protests, he said he doesn't believe it's about politics.
It's not politics. It's not politics. It's life and death. And our jobs are to move this state in a positive direction and to save lives. And the MSC Public Safety Act saved lives. And there's still much more work that we can do to make sure this doesn't happen again and that more communities don't have to go through what we went through.
Yeah, tomorrow, the last day of classes. We know finals will be starting. And we should also mention Fox 35's Randy Hildreth spoke just a little bit ago with one of the victims who was shot and injured. That's a Fox 35 exclusive interview that we'll have coming up on the news in just a little bit.
Yeah, she's apparently the one who people have seen in the videos where the person with the Starbucks cup was walking right by. So we'll hear from them in just a little bit. Well, we know that alligators are pretty much everywhere these days. That's because we live in Florida. But it's always shocking when one shows up on a front doorstep or even tries to climb the front door. And I've never understood why alligators seem to climb doors. Now, maybe they just can't turn very quickly, so they just decide to go up. But this one did the same thing again here. The homeowner, this happened in Lake Mary, by the way. Homeowner says she saw the gator on the doorbell camera, and she called FWC, or a trapper. And by the time the trapper got on the way, the 8-foot-long gator decided, peace out, I'm out of here. But, I mean, just so casual. No interest whatsoever. But we keep doing these stories on, it's alligator mating season, which I think it's always alligator mating season, just for the record. That's the excuse for everything. But one of the places that I run and another place where I golf, we used to see maybe 1 or 2, 20 gators out there.
Really?
And many small ones. That cracks me up. But again, it's like more than normal, it seems like, this year. And maybe because we're in the love season, but I don't know. There seems to be everywhere these days, even on front doorsteps.
Yeah, it's like your Uber Eats driver coming up there, just instead of delivering food, maybe looking for some. I don't know. Quite the scene. Here's what the homeowner said about it when she first saw it.
It didn't alert the ring cam when it came through, and it was just laying here basking. But once we all amassed at the door, it probably what it did at the first time when it knocked on the door, it stood up and kind of banged on the door and then laid back down. I'll be honest, I'm a little more paranoid now than I was before. We always know there's nature. We see bears. We see a lot of deer in the neighborhood. We see a lot. But I've never expected that to worry that a gator could be at my front door if I came out to check the mail in the daylight. Like, we would have never expected to see that.
You can't blame her for maybe being a little more paranoid now.
Well, yeah, and I always think about that when you see them in the pool, right? And it's so dark, you go out there at night not knowing one's on your front doorstep or one's by the pool. That's just one of those things about Florida that freaks me. And snakes. I'm more freaked out by the snakes than the gators, because I think the gators want to run away. The snakes here just got attitude. So. All right, NFL draft kicks off tonight. First round is this evening. No local players. Shocking in the first round here. That's the view up there in way up north of Wisconsin, eh? You can see a lot of Packers jerseys. By the way, every single team still has a first-round pick at last check. This is going to fluctuate quite a bit. So it's rare for that to happen where they've all kept the pick, but we'll see what happens. Cam Ward played 1 season in Miami, expected to be number 1 overall. He's probably going to go to Tennessee. Jags have the 5th, Dolphins at 16, Tampa Bay's at number 19. And again, no local players in the first round. Usually have some high school kids, UCF player, a Florida player, but no locals this year. But again, you'll see some Florida and UCF players later on. Now, in case you're wondering, top overall pick expected to sign for $43 million. And that used to be it is a big deal. But it used to be so shocking for these kids to go from college to the pros because they've never had money. Now, these guys are making $4 and $5 million a year in college. So yeah, it's a nice raise, but it's not like the stories before where the guy says, I couldn't afford lunch, I couldn't whatever, because you got $4 or $5 million in the bank in college per year.
NIL has definitely changed that game.
Mm-hmm.
And so while there are no local players going in the first round, there are some with some Florida connections that could go in the first round. Obviously, Cam Ward playing at Miami. Travis Hunter, who is obviously a big talk, he is from West Palm Beach. Ashton Genty is actually from Jacksonville and could get drafted by the Jacksonville Jags.
Mm-hmm.
We will see.
That'd be a cool story.
That would be cool. Then Tyler Booker attended IMG Academy. So there are a few connections, even if we don't have local players. There's still some folks that we can cheer for.
It's just shocking because I do this every year. I go through all the list, look at all the high schools. And in previous years, we had 15 or 20 guys. Some random player at Northwestern. Oh, he went to Jones High School. I mean, it was all over. If you started looking through each of the rosters, so I'm shocked. Yeah. Now, later rounds, we'll see some local guys later on.
Some later rounds, yes. Yeah, and here's some of you. R.J. Harvey, who obviously played at Edgewater. Some others from around the state as well. So yeah, it is. I do think probably an aberration that there aren't many, because we know the level of play around here and how good it is.
Yeah, I mean, we fill up every team up north, all the colleges. We fill up with players from here. So there you have it. We'll see what happens the next couple of days, though, and we'll know.
Going to be fun to watch. Well, John, we appreciate you joining us. That is today's Top 4 at 4. Well, we're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Laurel Blanchard joins me now, and Laurel, it's a nice day out there, but you know the thing that I think we just have to keep in the back of our minds is that this drought. This is one of the worst droughts that we've seen here in years.
Yeah, Garrett, it has been almost a decade since we have seen a drought this bad here in Central Florida. It's been since 2017, so 8 years ago, we saw a drought very bad, and it had some pretty nasty consequences too. We saw lots of wildfires that year, especially here across Central Florida, and we're seeing that once again, seeing that extreme drought over the next couple of days. And really, in the areas where we're seeing that extreme drought, we're not really going to be seeing that much needed rain in those areas as we take a look at the near future. Fingers crossed we will be seeing some of that much needed rain on the way, but for now we are stuck with these very dry conditions, especially along areas along Flagler, Daytona Beach area. You can see that blotch of red, and also moving in towards the villages, Sumter and Lake counties, also seeing that as well. So we are really in those desperate times for rain as we take a look outside. And with that, we are seeing those wildfires continuing to spark up. Earlier on this afternoon, we saw that spark up in Flagler County, the Cowpen event that we're watching just to the southwest of Bushnell right now. So that's something that we're going to be watching very carefully over the next couple of days, because like I said, Garrett, we're really not going to be seeing that much rain in the next couple of days. Maybe a couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms because of those sea breeze storms colliding, of what we're going to see on Sunday. Monday, a few more of those storms picking up, but really no widespread, desperately needed rain that we're going to see, not for the near future.
Yeah, and so we've been talking about the brush fires, the wildfires, because we've seen several of them. Again, you know, a new batch of them, it seems like, the past couple of days. And you're showing us that's going to continue to be a threat because we're not getting that rain. No, not much of a chance of it in sight.
Right, and really what we're going to see, especially on Sunday into Monday, are more of those sea breeze storms. So as you take a look at the forecast, really not seeing any rain in sight for the next couple of days. Here's your morning commute tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Things looking pretty clear out there. And then as we take a look throughout the afternoon, crystal clear skies, not a drop of rain in sight as we wrap up the work week. Taking a look though, we have high pressure just dominating over the region right now. This is what's going to scoot off to the east, continuing to raise our temperatures over the next couple of days. So here's your Friday night. A couple of clouds trying to sneak their way into the region, but really taking a look at Saturday, this is 9 a.m. Seeing a couple of passing clouds out there, but really nothing too drastic of what we can see to start off the weekend. Still staying dry and mostly sunny, so if you do have any outdoor plans on Saturday, whether you're going to the theme parks or to the beaches, it is going to be hot, it is going to be humid, and it is going to be dry. And that trend is going to continue to hold headed through your Saturday night and even into your Sunday. Now you'll notice a cold front tries to sneak its way in across central Florida, but it really doesn't make its way all the way down the peninsula. So with that, it could spark up maybe a shower, maybe a thunderstorm, especially across Daytona and where we're seeing those red splotches of where we are in that extreme drought. But really what this is going to do is just turn into a typical summertime afternoon. We're going to see those sea breeze collide, and with that, it's going to spark up a couple of thunderstorms and maybe a few showers along the Florida Turnpike, but that's not really where we need that rain. We really need some widespread rain all across the region, but specifically in Daytona Beach as well as by the villages. So it may bring a sprinkle by the villages as we take a look ahead into your Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. This is 7 p.m. where again we're just going to be seeing more of those sea breeze collision storms finally start to fizzle out, but really this isn't enough rain to put a dent in the rain deficiency of what we're seeing at the moment.
But also some, even with all that going on, we know there is some fun stuff to see in space. So talk us through this here.
Yeah, Garrett, so tonight there's actually a launch at 9:52 and things look crystal clear for that in Brevard County tonight, so that's good news. But also, this is something that you'll want to wake up early to see because quite literally the morning sky will be smiling back at you. Here's why. So this is a conjunction. So a conjunction is when two astronomical or celestial objects appear to be very close together in the night sky. And with that, we're going to be seeing Venus and Saturn look like they are almost touching just above the horizon as we head through the overnight tonight. So they'll look about 4 degrees apart, but you'll definitely need to be up early for this one. This is going to be happening at about 5 a.m. Reason why I bring this up is because Venus and Saturn going to be acting like little dots or eyes for the smiley face that we're going to be seeing in the morning sky. So quite literally, it's going to be a smiley face in space. Now I know this is probably a little bit far-fetched, but you'll be able to see Venus and Saturn, and that's going to line up just so happenly with the eastern sky and where the moon is going to be early tomorrow morning. So you might need to squint a little bit, turn your head, but also what we're really just going to be seeing is quite literally a smiley face with Venus and Saturn being the eyes and the mouth being the crescent moon early tomorrow morning. So that's a little bit of a fun fact to get you ready for the weekend. Pretty cool. And then again, you might need to kind of squint, take a look, but it's going to be right above the horizon at about 5 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Well, it's still better than seeing a frown in space.
I was going to say, I feel like a Friday smile. It's a good way to start the day, good way to wrap up the work week, start off the weekend. Good vibes from space coming up early tomorrow morning, which is exciting.
Yeah, and then the temperatures and the sunshine going to come out to keep that going.
Yeah, so to start off the weekend, Garrett, if you do have plans Friday afternoon and Friday evening, it is going to be hot. A nice start to the weekend for sure, but we are going to be seeing those temperatures quite toasty tomorrow. Temperatures once again throughout the upper 80s, starting off a little on the cool side, but it will be mild. You may need that light jacket just to start off, but quickly heating up as we head through the afternoon and evening, and it doesn't stop there. We are really going to heat up, possibly reaching the warmest day of 2025 so far on Sunday, seeing a high of 92 degrees before we see a couple more of those scattered showers on tap for your Monday, continuing to stay warm, taking a look ahead towards the middle of next week.
All right, they're going to have to start getting used to those warmer temperatures, hydrate, all those things that we need to do when it hits 90.
Oh yeah, definitely have the sunscreen because as we take a look at the next couple of days, UV index, get this, Garrett, going to be at an 8 and a 9. So that sunshine will definitely be strong for the next couple of days.
Yeah, going to be feeling that. Fox 35 Storm Team Meteorologist Laurel Blanchard, we appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Garrett.
We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. We are still awaiting a decision from the judge in Osceola County about whether or not to allow certain evidence in court in the upcoming trial against Stephan Sterns, who is charged with 6 counts in the sexual battery case of 13-year-old Maddie Soto. There was a suppression hearing yesterday. We brought you parts of that here on Fox Local to block evidence collected from Sterns' phone and from his Google account. The defense said that investigators unlawfully searched and seized those things. The prosecution said that Sterns gave them consent and that the evidence was properly obtained. Earlier today, I spoke with Lauren Cadillac. She is the owner of Cadillac Law in Dallas, also watches many of these high-profile cases closely. And we talked about some of what the ramifications would be if this evidence were to be excluded, and some other things you need to know as this case moves forward.
Well, first, it goes a little deeper than just the cell phone. The suppression motion asked to suppress Sterns' cloud file, which, if you've been following this case at all, you know contained thousands of photos of him and Madeline in positions that no parent would want for their child. So it is important for the defense to try to get that out because that is the prosecution's case primarily. So here the defense argued that, well, they made a fruit of the poisonous tree argument. Okay, so they said, look, you got this phone, you didn't have consent, he was technically detained, you didn't, get the proper warrant, and anything that stems from the phone onward, including the data you retrieved because you knew about the stuff, because you knew the phone information, all of that needs to be suppressed. I think it's a good argument on the defense's part. And I think the judge taking time to consider and make his ruling shows that the defense made a good argument. It was especially poignant to me yesterday when the judge asked witnesses questions. And when you're sitting in a courtroom and a judge asks your witness something, based off that question, you can kind of know where the judge's opinion is going. So it will be interesting to see how this judge rules. I tend to think because he handed the phone over, he sat there while they searched through it, he never protested. I tend to think the phone information will be allowed, but maybe some of the information that followed would not.
And what impact would that have? I know you said this is a major this is major evidence in this case, specifically the sexual battery case, which is what at issue here. What else is there if that is some of that is thrown out?
Well, that's exactly the point, and that's why the defense is even moving to suppress this evidence. If this evidence is successfully suppressed, unless the prosecution has something else that we don't know about, these charges would basically have to be dropped. There's no way to prove beyond a reasonable doubt without all of that cloud data. Although I know there were some jail phone calls between Sterns and his parents, and those are somewhat incriminating. They could help. I don't think the phone calls themselves would prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and certainly not in the way that, hey, this is his cloud, these are his photos, gee, look how gross these are, would.
From your perspective as an attorney, we know these, motions like these are fairly common especially in cases like this that we follow. But from what it sounds like, some of the reaction necessarily from the judge is not something that we always see in things like this, as far as, like you said, him asking some questions of the witnesses and then also taking nearly 2 months to kind of look over this and make a decision on this.
Yeah, it is interesting. We don't usually see the judges, well, in watching criminal prosecution online, we don't see judges ask questions. They do it all the time in civil court. But it is interesting to see that, and particularly the questions the judge was asking. He was asking the police about, the possession and searching through the phone, and his questions, though I don't remember his exact wording, they made me sit back and go, is he going to lean towards suppression? It is a very good argument the defense is making using the fruit of the poisonous tree. And that's the idea that if you obtain one thing legally and that thing leads to other things, all the other things are also obtained illegally, as they are fruit of the poisonous tree of the start of the illegal search. So it is a good argument on the defense's side. I thought the prosecution did really well in their questions, but based off the judge's questions, it did seem he was leaning a little towards the defense. I'm thinking that because of who the victim is here and the type of crime he's charged with, the judge would like to use an abundance of caution before before making his ruling. And so he's probably going to go back and read all the case law that they provided. He's probably going to go to his law clerk and ask them to do some additional research and kind of allow all of that to help him make his decision. And that is great. We don't want judges making decisions off of their feelings. Okay, that's not a judge's role. Feelings don't matter in a courtroom. And so a judge who's willing to step back and go, wait, let me check the law. Let me make sure I apply these facts to the law that is controlling in this case. That is exactly what we want to see out of our judiciary.
One, especially in a case like this that he knows is being closely watched and knows that, there are certain things that potentially could be under scrutiny in future appeals as well.
Exactly. I mean, this crime it's disgusting. It's gross. It's every parent's worst nightmare. And the judge is aware that his constituency feels that way because, he probably feels that way. Now, even though a crime is horrific and disgusting, as someone who is on American soil, you don't have to be a citizen, but if you're on the soil of this great land, you get due process. The Constitution applies to you, and the government has to obtain their evidence through legal means. So it doesn't matter how disgusting the person behaved or how completely shocked you are by it. And we'll say is alleged to behave because it has to be proven that they behaved that way. What matters is that you are on American soil and our Constitution applies.
And the onus to prove that this is the onus when it comes to these suppression hearings, just for everyone's knowledge so we're on the same page, is the onus on the prosecution to prove that this evidence was obtained lawfully, or is the onus on the defense to prove that it was obtained unlawfully?
So in these situations, there is burden shifting. The defense has an initial burden, and once the defense shows that that could possibly exist, then the burden shifts to the prosecution. Then the prosecution has to show how it did not exist or how it was not illegal. And they did actually do some discussing in the hearing yesterday about the shifting burden, etc.
It's going to be interesting to watch either way as we kind of look ahead to the things that are going to be happening. We've got the timeline that I can pull up here. June 30th is when the judge says he will have that written ruling out by July 2nd, the pretrial hearing, July 14th, the jury trial slated to begin, and then the September 22nd when the capital murder trial is slated to begin. So going to be a busy summer for that legal team.
Yeah, if I were one of the attorneys, I would not be okay with this. If I need pretrial hearings by July 2nd, that's 3 days after the judge's ruling. How am I going to know? I mean, that's like, there's a lot hanging on this evidence in particular. And so I think, I think it's great to use an abundance of caution, but 3 days before your motions in limine need to be argued seems it does not seem prudent or just to me. Like, that really makes your defense team and your prosecution, everybody is going to have to go do this crazy dance for 72 hours, and who knows, if they'll actually be ready on the second. That's a weird timeline when I review that.
So then you think if it is, if the judge does take that full time and doesn't come out with that ruling until June 30th, there could be a chance that trial then gets pushed back again?
Well, if he comes out and says the evidence is suppressed, then the prosecution is going to appeal that ruling, right? If he comes out and says this evidence is allowed in, then the defense is going to say, well, I need more than 72 hours to write my motions in limine to address all these other things, right? And I think it's kind of a lose-lose. Like, no side is going to be prepared 3 days later. If they are, congratulations, you guys have figured this work-life balance out beyond belief. But I can't imagine a world where your counsel could be prepared that quickly.
So we will see. I mean, the judge could have that decision well before that June 30th deadline. And again, it could stretch that late. We'll just have to wait and see what comes with that. But obviously a lot hinging on that decision when it comes to this sexual battery case and the upcoming trial now slated for July. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. A tow truck driver is recovering after he was hit by a car driven by a man that investigators say was running from police. This was part of a deadly crash as well, we should mention. Fox 35's Esther Bauer spoke to this man today. Esther, first of all, just get us up to speed on this situation and what happened to begin with.
On I-95, and what we are told is this driver was driving at extremely high speeds. Witnesses told us and also shared some video. They think he was going around 100 miles per hour on the highway. So the FHP troopers started to pursue this vehicle and have their lights on, trying to get this person to pull over. Ultimately, the driver never did pull over and kind of veered off on a ramp to get off the highway to continue fleeing from these troopers. And the gentleman you're looking at, John Umara, he was on that ramp and he was actually working to get a tow truck kind of latched into his systems. He was trying to tow a vehicle on the side of the ramp. Well, he was slammed into by the vehicle that was trying to flee troopers. That's the vehicle, that white Mercedes car. And you should know there was obviously the person driving the car, and then there were three people in that car. They died immediately, just the impact of that crash. The person driving survived, and John survived. And so we're hearing from him for the first time. It's been about 1 month now, but he's still really just trying to process what happened. He said he was underneath the vehicle trying to hook it up. He did hear some tires screeching, but he thought it was, far enough away. Highways, they can be loud. And then he just saw himself tumbling, just spinning around. He said he wasn't controlling his arms, but they were moving. He became pinned underneath the wreck. But he survived. And today we got to hear from him, from his wife, from their lawyer for the first time. I can tell you his road to recovery won't be easy. He didn't break any bones, right? So his arms are moving and his legs were doing fine. But he has several fractures in his skull. He had a very, very deep cut on the top of his head. And this was shocking to me. His eyeglass prescription actually changed because of how severe the impact of that crash. He has brand new glasses. And as far as pain goes, some days are better than others, but doctors are still trying to figure out. He has neck and back pain constantly. So he is, happy that he is still here. He's definitely pushing for justice to be served in this case because, as we said, 3 people in that person's car are dead. And the state attorney's office is taking this case very seriously. That driver, his name is Vernon Hodges. He's facing 17 counts relating to this, including murder, vehicular manslaughter, and also DUI. Officials tell us he was a habitual traffic violator. So he's been arrested many times before this fatal crash. And so they are pressing some pretty serious charges moving forward.
Really just a lot of elements to this story, Esther. But when you boil it down, it's a miracle that this guy is alive today.
Oh my gosh, an absolute miracle. If you're hitting speeds of 100 miles per hour on the highway, you're underneath a car, you're not even in a vehicle, and then you become trapped under the wreck, an absolute miracle. He feels lucky. He feels blessed. He told us as he was spinning, he just kept saying like, oh God, no, like someone help me. And he didn't really say he passed out during this either. He was really aware when they, airlifted him for help. We spoke with his wife too, who you can imagine getting the call. Your husband's been in a crash on the side of the highway. So she was absolutely freaking out. She said it was the hardest day of her life, but she is so grateful for family and friends that have been supporting, praying, offering meals. John's obviously not going to work for quite some time. Family's just trying to make it through, make ends meet during this time. So just a lot for them to still process, but it's been about 1 month since their lives completely changed.
Wow. What's next for him on the road to recovery?
So it's kind of, I would say, touch and go still. Like we said, he told us some days are definitely better than others, but doctors are really trying to figure out kind of what's the cause of this neck and back pain. I did ask him, have you been by that area since the, crash happened? He says, no, he's not really able to drive over there at this point. So definitely the mental healing from just going through this. But John did tell us he wants to get back to the work that he loves, but maybe working in a location where he doesn't have to go, towing trucks, being more stationary. So he does want to get back to work, really just focused on healing and then hoping for justice. And also the message he wanted to get out there is for all drivers to be aware how a split-second decision you make on the road can change someone's life forever. He says if you see first responders, if you see tow truck drivers, if you see someone that broke down and is trying to fix their flat tire on the side of the road, just move over, give them space, and just try to be as far away as you can. Obviously, this was a different situation because someone was trying to flee, but just encouraging everyone on the road to be watchful.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a different situation, but you certainly can see the importance of doing that and giving them the space, because all it takes is a split second, a sneeze, anything to change multiple lives forever. So
Absolutely.
a good point there. Fox 35's Esther Bauer, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Fox 35 News Plus, and we look forward to seeing your story.
Awesome, and we'll talk with you guys soon.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Major breaking political news this afternoon out of Tallahassee, where on the floor of the Senate just a little bit ago, maybe 45 minutes ago, Senator Jason Pizzo, a Democrat from Sunny Isles Beach and the current Senate Minority Leader, so the leader of the Senate Democrats, announced that he is stepping down from that leadership role and leaving the Democratic Party. He's going to register as NPA, no party affiliation. He also, in his remarks on the Senate floor, called the Democratic Party in Florida dead. Here's what he said on the floor of the Senate just a little bit ago.
Any other members wishing to make an announcement? Leader Pizzo.
Thank you, Mr. President. A point of personal privilege, which is apropos because I feel incredibly privileged. I'm proud that as my first session as Minority Leader, these bills objectively moving through have been the least socially divisive in more than a decade. I'm proud that my long-standing plea for an autonomous legislature has been heeded. That's progress, and perhaps enough reasonably to expect for one session, after so many bad ones. But we are supposed to be here not to engage in juvenile antics, but to protect our environment, promote our small businesses, and protect our families and our first responders. We should be finding ways to provide economic relief to our constituents, not taking their money to create more bureaucracy or fund personal political activity. And despite what social media surfing may try to lull you into believing, the political party system here in Florida is nearly dead. Like the infighting, power struggles, corruption, and decline of civic virtue that pervaded and eventually ushered in the fall of Rome, so too are we players, or perhaps props, in the mess that is modern partisanship. I don't regret the money I've poured into keeping what seems like a terminal sort of mission afloat. What I do regret is the time I've invested and the sacrifices I've made to the detriment of so many of those who I love. I care about people. I don't care about politics. I care about my family and yours, not a title. I have long had a feeling, confirmed, I think, empirically by 7 years of service in this chamber, that partisanship holds us back rather than propels us forward. Less gets done, not more. More so than most, more so than almost everyone, have I been blessed. I've been blessed with an incredible family and friendships who parade love, loyalty, and sacrifice more than any one person deserves, certainly more than I deserve. I haven't reciprocated enough because so much of my effort has been consumed with the safety and security and well-being of others whom I'm finding may not want it. There'll be a caucus meeting later this afternoon where I hope that the members of the Democratic caucus will elect a new leader. For today, I FedExed my voter registration form to change my party affiliation to no party affiliation. Joe Scott should receive that by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning in Broward County. And here's why. Our constituents are craving practical leaders, not political hacks. We are entrusted to be guided by our conscience, and while I suppose it's easier in theory than it is in application, even my worst detractors have no valid claim that I can be bullied, that I can be bought, or even borrowed for a special interest. I am my father's son, even in his death. I am my mother's son while she is still alive. I will not miss another one of her birthdays, and I will return to who I was when I became a young man, independent in thought, in my passion, and my conscience, not consultants, will rule my behavior and conduct. I will continue to fight incredibly hard for everyone in the state of Florida. I am not in this position because of Democrats. I got elected because of NPAs. The 3.7 million people who have no party, who have no representation. They are those that put you here as well. I consider all of you my friends, and I think stripping myself of a title of a party designation allows me to run free and clear, clean and transparent, and help many, many more. I really truly do care about all of you. But here's what I'm not going to do anymore. I'm not going to pander. I'm not going to rule and lead on probation. I'm going to follow my heart. I've got to thank Maggie Gerson. Love you, buddy. Caleb Francis, who makes sure that I'm good every day. And my boys. Guys, I'm excited for this. This makes me happy and clean and clear. And here's the issue. The Democratic Party in Florida is dead. But there are good people that can resuscitate it. But they don't want it to be me. That's not convenient. It's not cool. The Republican Party has a lot of problems. I said, and you've heard me say, that the pendulum is going to swing so far, and the gluttony so strong and so viscous, that it's going to swing back. I'm not having a Jerry Maguire moment right now, like, who's coming with me? But that's the truth. The party that my dad volunteered for in JFK when he was 18 years old in 1960 is not the party today. It craves and screams anarchy and then demands amnesty. That's not okay. I've always been criticized by the far left and by the far right. But you know what the small businesses and the hardworking families and the teachers and the cops and the firemen want us to do? Be public servants, not politicians. I love all of you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
That was Senator Jason Pizzo just a little bit ago on the floor of the Senate, and now a response from the Florida Democratic Party. FDP Chair Nikki Fried saying in this statement, calling Jason Pizzo one of the most ineffective and unpopular Democratic leaders in recent memory, and his resignation one of the best things to happen to the party in years, she said. His legacy as leader includes continually disparaging the party base, starting fights with other members, and chasing his own personal ambitions at the expense of Democratic values. She goes on to say Jason's failure to build support within our party for a gubernatorial run has led to this final embarrassing temper tantrum. I'd be lying if I said I'm sad to see him go, but I wish him the best of luck in the political wilderness he's created for himself. The Florida Democratic Party is more united without him. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Just over 2 hours now until the NFL draft kicks off outside Lambeau Field. See a lot of fans milling about there. A lot of excitement for this draft. And earlier today, we talked with Tim Walters, the sports editor of the Florida Times-Union and Florida Today, about some players with Florida connections and what you need to watch for in the draft.
And so let's first start with the first round. And of course, we're going to talk about two different types of connections to Florida. One is those who go to Florida's colleges and universities, and one is those who are homegrown high school products here. And in some cases, you got a player who's both. So we start at the very top of the draft. Of course, Cam Ward, the University of Miami quarterback, he was a Heisman finalist, and he was a transfer to Miami last year. And he almost went to the NFL, almost entered the draft. And I don't think he would have gone very high because there were 6 quarterbacks taken off the board pretty quickly last year. This year, I think he's going to go number 1 overall to the Titans. I would be incredibly surprised if they didn't do that. I mean, look, they could take Travis Hunter, but I don't think Will Levis is the answer there in Tennessee. I think the Browns would love to see Cam Ward fall to number 2, but I don't think that that's going to happen. So I think you're going to see Cam Ward from the University of Miami go number 1. Now, number 2 very well could be Travis Hunter. He's actually from the Palm Beach area. So even though he played for Colorado, played for Deion Sanders, played at Jackson State before that, he's a guy who comes from South Florida. He won the Heisman. He's a 2-position player. Some people actually think that there are teams that might trade up to try and get him, including the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 5. So we'll see what happens. But, 2 guys with Florida ties could go in the top 2. Then there's Ashton Genty, the superb running back from Boise State. A lot of people don't know he's from Northeast Florida. He was born in Jacksonville, and again, with the Jaguars with the number 5 overall pick, could consider taking him, even though I think they're going to go with a defensive player. But you have Ashton Genty, who is from the Jacksonville area. Other notable players that could go in the first round, you have Tyler Booker, the offensive guard from Alabama, who also went to IMG Academy. And, he's projected a little bit further down, maybe around, 15 to 18. You could see him maybe go to Seattle. He was an All-American last year. So you've got Tyler Booker. And then also, if you're looking in the first round, you've got Jalen Walker, who he's from Florida as well. And played for Georgia last year, and he could go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's the first round. Now, if you want to look at guys who are from Florida, so there's the wide receiver from Miami, Xavier Restrepo. He's also from Deerfield Beach. And of course, he had a career year last year for the University of Miami with Cam Ward throwing to him. A little bit undersized. We'll see, where he could get taken. Maybe he ultimately becomes an undrafted free agent. But I think you're going to see a club take a chance on him somewhere. From the University of Central Florida, right here in Orlando, the running back, R.J. Harvey out of Edgewater. Now, he'll probably be, maybe a 3rd or 4th round pick. I've seen him mocked up in a few different places, including, again, the Jaguars, who have 10 picks. So you're going to see a lot of things out of them. But he had a great season last year. Overall in his career, he had 47 touchdowns. And I loved watching R.J. Harvey play. He was just a good guy, good movement, good speed, good power. So, he's a good one. Also out of UCF, you've got Mac McWilliams. He went to Pine Forest, which is a school over on the east coast of Florida. And he started his career at UAB, finished up at UCF. And I think he had a lot of tackles. He was a tackling machine. So I think he's a good one to look for there in the draft. Out of the University of Florida, a player who also went to Miami Palmetto, that's Jason Marshall Jr., and he started 7 games last year, had a season-ending injury, but he had 4 pass breakups, 3 quarterback hurries, and limited play. So it shows you he can get to the quarterback and he was a cornerback actually, so he was good. Then right down the street from where I live, actually, just about 10 minutes north of where I am, you have Raheem Sanders. He went to Rockledge High School right here in Brevard County where I am. He started his career at Arkansas. He was great in high school, by the way. I saw him play a couple of times. And then last year, he played for South Carolina. And I think he's going to be a highly touted running back because he's got a lot of upside. Just a couple more to mention. From Florida State, a Gadsden County graduate, Joshua Farmer. He earned honorable mention for the All-ACC team. Again, he had a lot of tackles, Florida State had a lot of tackling to do last year, so he was one of the guys who was actually doing that. And then you've got Jalen Rivers, who played at Miami. He was an offensive tackle out of Oakleaf. He's going to be a good one. And so, this draft is filled with a lot of great players. And I think the last one I'll mention is, former University of Florida player. He played for Georgia last year, is the brother of Jaguars' current running back, Travis Etienne, and that is Trevor Etienne. So you could see him go off the board in the 3rd or 4th round, somewhere in that neighborhood. So just a lot of really good players with ties to Florida, and I could probably name many, many more, but I think I'll stop there for you.
It's definitely a deep class, it seems like. Who do you think makes the most immediate impact?
Oh boy, I'd probably Cam Ward. Or Travis Hunter. I mean, obviously the top 2 picks in the draft, but I just think Cam Ward, because he's a little bit older, and I think he's stepping into, what would be an okay situation on the Titans. They don't have great weapons there, but they've got a new head coach. They're building towards something good, and I think he's going to get a lot of playing time. So even though he may not have the greatest rookie season, I don't think you're going to see a Jaden Daniels type of year out of him. I think he could be pretty good. He may struggle a little bit, kind of like Caleb Williams did. I mean, heck, Bo Nix last year struggled in his first 4 or 5 games, and then he figured it out with kind of a mediocre Denver team. I like the upside of Cam Ward. And Travis Hunter, I'm curious if the Browns are to take him. He says he wants to play both positions. So what's going to happen there? Will his will win, or will the team that drafts him win? Will they only play him in one spot? Could be wide receiver, could just be on defense. Look, the Browns need them both, so if I was them, I'd throw the young guy out there and let him go, because he's got a motor that doesn't stop. So I'm looking forward to seeing those guys play. And if you just want to talk about one guy who I think could also make again, he's going to be a high draft pick, but I think Ashton Genty, I think you're going to see really good things out of him. You don't see a lot of running backs taken really high in the draft anymore, but there's a lot of people who have him maybe even going as high as 5 or 6 because he is just that good. So watch for those guys this year. When you're doing your fantasy football drafting, I'm going to try and grab Genty. Hopefully I have an early round pick.
So some bonus fantasy football advice there as well from Tim Walters. You want to jot that down, make a note of it. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Fox 35 News Plus this afternoon. We appreciate you joining us today on what has been a pretty busy day. And we hope you stay tuned for Fox 35 News at 5. Going to go ahead and send you out to Studio B for the start of Fox 35 News at 5. You see John and Luann getting ready for that. You're going to want to stay tuned and see Fox 35's Randy Hildreth's interview with this FSU shooting victim. It's a story you'll see only on Fox 35. So keep it right here on Fox Local. The news continues in just seconds.
Right now on Fox 35 News at 5, heartbreak on Halifax Avenue.
I heard the screech, heard all the screaming, came down, saw the light, so I came running down to figure out what happened.
A toddler follows